Today's visual novel is Muv Luv Unlimited. This is basically a sequel to the previous story of Muv Luv Extra, but it's also included in the same game and doesn't need to be purchased separately. It's unlocked after you beat Maya and Sumika's routes in Extra. Muv Luv Unlimited once again tells the tale of Shirogane Takaru. However, he inexplicably has wound up in an alternative Earth. This world is full of deadly aliens referred to as the Beta, and also has giant mechs that he always dreamed of one day piloting. Essentially, the Beta have done colossal damage on the planet, and only around 1 billion humans are left due to their advances. As such, Takaru finds himself engaging in a training camp for Eishi, or the so-called mech pilots of the series, so he can assist in fighting the Beta off. Thankfully, he does meet most of his friends that were in the Extra world. However, they have no idea who he actually is even though they share the same face. Also, Sumika, his childhood friend, is nowhere to be found despite the fact that pretty much everyone else he knows is around. Thus begins Takaru's journey on becoming an Eishi pilot and possibly trying to find a way back to his original world. So once again, the question is, do I have to read this or Muv Luv Extra to read Alternative? The answer is the same in that I don't think you should, but at the very least, Muv Luv Unlimited is much better and possibly should be given a chance. Basically, it's still a harem comedy, just with a shonen training arc in the mix this time around. Really, this game's primary purpose is for Takaru to develop a bond with the other Eishi candidates, and to give you an introduction to this alternative universe with the Beta. I won't cover my feelings on genre shifts again, but at least this part is much better for a few reasons. Primarily in the fact that even though the heroines are the same as the last game outside of Sumika not being there, they all feel a bit more mature, and they all feel like they go through much more development. Which, as a whole, makes the cast much more tolerable if you ask me, especially Takaru. His problem is, of course, he's a total newbie here, so all the girls basically have to support him quite a lot through all his training ordeals. It's nice though, because I think the game did an adequate job of actually making you feel like they were fellow comrades. Even though I didn't think anyone but Sumika had believable chemistry with him in the last game, I have to say his romance with Maya in this tale is pretty well done and cute overall. The main problem with this game is, of course, it's just a standard shonen fare really, which really isn't a problem, but it's certainly not going to impress anyone, and especially if you're not a fan of shonen training arcs, then this story might annoy you. And as for the story, it does not budge an inch in the game until the very end, so really all of this is just build up for Alternative. That wouldn't have been a problem if Extra didn't exist and I hadn't played that first, which was already used to set up the initial introduction with the characters. So we have two introductions for the characters and building up stuff for Alternative. Yeah. The pacing is very, very slow in the series, like said before. As for our production side, it's the same as Extra. There's nothing impressive about it other than the crazy haircuts, but there's something memorable about Unlimited for sure in terms of its art direction, and that is the crazy Eishi outfits. They look terrible. They try to give you a reason for it, but the reason is crap, and the reason is it's fan service. Don't even try to insult your audience's intelligence, author. It's fan service. Just treat it like fan service. I mean, Jesus, they look terrible. So bad. But if you can, try to find them laughable. They even have to, spoilers for Alternative a little bit, they have to change the color on them because they're skin toned in this game. They have to change the color on them eventually in Alternative because they know they look stupid. They look so stupid. It's hard to take them seriously when they wear those outfits. Overall, Muv Luv Unlimited is what it is, and even though it's a million times better than Extra, it's still not a must-play, really, especially because some of the decisions made in Alternative. Still, the characters aren't too bad, and if you're a fan of training arcs and shonens, then you might find something to appreciate here. Like if you liked when Naruto learned the Rasengan, when Ichigo learned his Bankai. I kind of have a guilty pleasure for that because that's usually in training arcs is when the characters get lots of development, and they're becoming bigger, stronger versions of themselves, and that's always kind of fun to see. But if you don't like that stuff, then yeah, just skip it and go right to Alternative. Just read a summary. Don't feel like this is a must-read game. It's definitely not. Once again, not a fan of genre shifts, and I feel like the story should have just not had Extra be a part of this at all, as more time could have been dedicated to Unlimited and Alternative if they had left it out. Also, this review is basically over. I'm sorry there wasn't much to talk about in Muv Luv Unlimited over because it's a really simple story. There's not really anything to say about it. All the endings are basically the same, so only play one character route if you must. Play your favorite girl, play Maya, whatever you feel is appropriate. Doesn't matter, they're all the same. It's just too simple. The story does not budge much. It's really just a character development arc, and there's nothing wrong with that, but visual novels need to know that it's not okay to just put the plot on hold, complete hold, while just to get the audience attached to the characters. If the characters are good, even if the plot is moving, they will get attached to them. There's no need to really see them just faffing about it, but at least in this game, they're actually training and developing to do their initial goals, so it's a little better than most Karage visual novels. You know, it's much better than Rewrite, where they're literally just faffing about most of the time. For people who want the plot, they're gonna have to wait forever for it, especially if they went through Extra. But that's not what I'm going on a tangent about. I did say Muv Luv Extra had no foreshadowing to really prepare you for Alternative and Unlimited's genre shift. This isn't necessarily all the way true because the characters do say the occasional lines, like in Sumika's diary where it said Takaru would let her meet an alien, and Yuko's crazy theory that she presented in the game, and as well as a few characters talking about alternative worlds as kind of side comments. However, that's what I would call very bad foreshadowing if we even want to consider it such. Yes, indeed, Sumika made a remark about aliens. Therefore, it thinks that's proper preparation to a story about aliens. It is not. Foreshadowing is only good when the plot progression, character development, or world building allows you to believe the clues you were given were important. There has to be some logic behind it, or at the very least, the story has to give you some reason on why the details a character might be saying are important. Otherwise, you could just as easily say, well, Muv Luv could have easily turned into a racing visual novel because Takaru and Yuko had a race against Takahashi. Yeah, actually, that would be more believable than what it did. The greatest foreshadowing in a visual novel is Sharan no Kuni, which gave birth to the greatest plot twist in a visual novel. That's because it gave you a ton of clues, and the clues made sense with the plot, the characters, and the world the characters live in. Foreshadowing really only works if you treat it like a mystery, and mysteries are terrible if they don't follow some degree of the story's universe logic. It doesn't have to follow real-world logic, just the logic of the world the story resides in. So yeah, I just don't think Extra justifiably prepared its audience for its genre shift, and it's not something I want to see future visual novels or writers think it's okay to do mainly. It's okay to be subtle, but there's a difference between subtle and just being kinda random and making those random comments apply to later parts in the story. That's completely different.